Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and I have been highly critical of Netflix's The Witcher. I really don't believe it's a good adaptation by any stretch of the imagination, especially season 2. They threw out the book, and I don't even think it's that good to begin with, even taking the adaptation argument out of it. I'm okay with changing the lore, changing a story, if it's gold for gold. But The Witcher, especially season 2, was gold for garbage, and so I just really hate what Netflix is doing with this property, and it seems like the writers at Netflix's The Witcher also hate what came before, and that just explains so much of why that they've so disregarded everything that came before, all the books and games that made people so love this franchise. Now, you don't need to be an expert on something to start writing a television show or something. I think you should be familiar with it at least and love it. But if you're actively hating it, you are the wrong person for the job. Yeah, actors, they don't need any attachment to the source material, but they need to try and get involved into it and learn it. Writers need to already know it before going in my personal opinion, at least to a certain extent. But hating it, that is immediate disqualification for the job, in my opinion, and that really speaks to why the show is so bad and why so many adaptations in Hollywood are so bad, because this seems like not an unusual occurrence, writers hating the source material. If you hate the source material, why are you writing about that universe? That seems antithetical in my opinion. If I hated something, why would I write about it? That seems insane to me. But there's money involved, so of course people are going to make terrible decisions and shit on a franchise that they care nothing about because they get paid. And ultimately, that's where all this comes down to is, yeah, they hate it, but they got paid, so whatever. Very similar to what the Titania actress of She-Hulk said. I got paid, so why should I care if I destroyed this universe? Why should I care if I was involved in something that destroyed this universe? So we have this article here from CBR that puts the quotes all together. The headline says, Netflix's The Witcher's writer's room actively disliked the books and the games. You're disqualified from writing this show. It explains so much because season 2 was based off of Blood of Elves. The only thing from Blood of Elves that they actually took was Triss went to Kaer Morhen at the beginning. Virtually everything else was annihilated. They made up Yennefer's entire storyline, and by doing so, they destroyed most of Ciri's storyline, and they made up all of Geralt's storyline. It was just a tangled mess that had nothing to do with the actual books. The only good episode was the one that they adapted the short story from Sword of Destiny in the first episode, and Ciri wasn't involved in that story, but they still did a decent job in episode 1. They hate the source material, and that is so evident in the writing that I'm glad that someone's actually coming out and saying that that's how the situation actually is. So this comes from former series writer Beau DeMayo, who recently suggested some members of the writers' room do not like the source material or its video game adaptation. Henry Cavill, he cares so much, so I can't imagine how painful it's been for him to endure writers who hate the source material that he so loves. He cares. Though one of the best written scenes in season 2 was when Roach died, and that's because he fought to include a good speech from the books word for word instead of making a joke about the death that these writers were on it. He cares, so I just can't imagine how difficult it is for him to be involved in something that is actively destroying something he loves by people who hate what he loves. It must be incredibly painful for him. DeMayo discussed his works on the upcoming X-Men 97 project, which I'm not looking forward to at all, and the requirement that the writers involved needed to be fans in the material. He gets it, at least. That is such a simple thing. Be fans of what you're writing about, and that'll ensure that you're faithful. If you come at it from a fan perspective, if you understand what fans are thinking, you can make it in a fan servicey way. Fan service is not this bad word that Hollywood seems to believe it is. There are good ways to do it and bad ways to do it. Fan service doesn't necessarily just mean cameos like it seems to mean these days. It doesn't mean gratuitous sex or whatever like it does they think it does in Game of Thrones. It can just mean, hey, let's keep the characters that people like in the show. Let's keep them who they are. Let's keep the source material at least sort of accurate. Let's try to respect the customer and not attack them. So yeah, being a fan is a very good first step, but apparently that's not what it was for The Witcher. He compared the experience to writing on The Witcher, stating, I've been on the show, namely Witcher, where some of the writers were not or actively disliked the books or game, even actively mocking the source material. Now that is way too far. You're mocking the source material. You might say hey, it's not for me. Whatever, it's not for me. I say that about a lot of stuff. I think Cobra Kai is good. It's just not for me. I don't particularly enjoy it, but I can recognize that it's good. At least don't go at it and say, oh yeah, Cobra Kai is the worst thing ever because I just don't personally enjoy it. actively mocking the source material. You should be fired and banned from touching the Witcher product in any way, shape, or form if you actively dislike and mock what you're adapting. That is heinous, honestly. It disgusts me that these people exist, and these are the type of people writing our beloved franchises. So many fans would do better. Just respect the source material, adapt the source material, and don't hate on it. This was never going to be a good adaptation. This was never going to be a good story in general if the writers hated it as they seem to. If you hate it, why would you put in any effort to make anything of quality? This is just a way to get paid as quickly as possible and move on to the next product. There was never any possibility of it being any good if the source material was hated. You're already coming at it from a point of failure if you're coming at it from that perspective. He went on to say, it's a recipe for disaster and bad morale. Fandom is a litmus test, checks egos, and makes all the long nights worth it. I'm really liking a lot of the things that this guy is saying. Yes, it is a recipe for disaster, and fandom checks egos. I really like how he's putting it all together, and fans loving something would make writing worth it. I know that from my personal experience. When people read my books, them coming at it and say, hey, I really enjoyed this, I really enjoyed that, that makes it all worth it. So I understand where he's coming from. And if me, just with my books, I'm experiencing that, and that's of value to me, why is it not of value to these Witcher writers? They literally don't care, and they hate what came before. That is just such a heinous and asinine perspective to take it, and I don't know what motivates them besides money, because getting adoration from fans who enjoy what you're working on, that's the payment. That's what's really of value out of all of this. You have to respect the work before you're allowed to add to its legacy. That is such a simple concept, but seems so foreign in Hollywood these days. You have to like the source material before you're allowed to add to the legacy. You don't have the right to shit on something that you hate. You don't have the right. It's that simple. It's that fundamentally simple. But Netflix doesn't care. These writers don't care. They're going to do whatever they want. And at the end of the day, we just have to swallow it because we don't own the rights. It's not okay, in my opinion. Showrunner Lauren Histridge previously explained her approach to building a writer's room, stating that she intentionally avoided relying on those who were too familiar with the source material. So she intentionally hired people who didn't know the source material very well. No wonder she hired a bunch of people who hated the source material. They're not familiar with it enough to love it. You need to hire fans as writers, actors and stuff like that. Most other positions in a production, doesn't matter if they're fans or not. But writers, they have to care, because then that care will be implemented into every word they write, and fans can feel that. As much as Black Adam isn't written all that well, as far as I've heard, they love what they're working on. Those writers, the people involved with the movie, loved what they were doing, loved that genre, loved those characters, and that came across to fans, and so fans enjoyed it. It's really that simple, but she was already coming at it from a point of failure. She stated on social media, "We need writers who are close but not too close, who love the world but aren't afraid to question it." It seems like none of them love the world. That's just kind of coping a little bit there. Who are fans but are willing to step back and open their minds in order to bring their beloved world into our real big one. Bringing it in for modern day audiences. We need someone who knows what The Witcher is, but is totally okay with shitting all over it because we gotta make it for modern day audiences. That's what she's saying there. And no wonder The Witcher is so poorly written, and it's just so bad from an adaptation standpoint, and it makes so much sense here with these revelations coming from DeMeo. And Lauren Histridge, she was never going to be the person who was well equipped to handle a fantasy series like this, because she stated she doesn't really like fantasy, and she's coming at it as like, oh yeah, we hired writers who really don't care all that much and are willing to let me destroy and bastardize it because it's fantasy, but it's got to be a message about our real world. This is Hollywood to a T, everything we've come to know and expect from them, and it's nice to have the proof before us to explain all the terrible decisions that were made. Everything that we surmised, everything that we guessed about this show is proved 100% accurate by these statements by both Lauren Histridge and DeMeo. DeMeo had some really good comments here. The fact that he's writing X-Men 97 and he's had these good comments makes me at least peripherally interested, because it sounds like he was only involved in season 1, and season 1 had a lot more accurate stuff in it, and it was a lot better than season 2. I don't dismiss anyone who says they were fans of season 1. I can respect someone who's a fan of season 1. I personally am not, but that one is enough. There's enough quality there that I can respect anyone who likes season 1. Season 2, he's gone and it's garbage. Maybe they're not connected events. Maybe they are. Who knows? But he had some really good comments here that brought light to how bad that writer's room is and full of haters. And that's never going to create a good product. It is never going to be possible. And this all comes right on the heels of the announcement that writing has begun for seasons 4 and 5, which they will be filming back to back to get year-and-year releases of those seasons. These writers, it really seems like they're trying to get this done as quickly as possible to move on to their next product, because if they really do hate this story, if they hate this universe, that would explain why they're trying to rush through it as quickly as possible, because they hate their jobs, they hate what they're doing, they just want to get paid and get on to the next product. That sucks. It sucks as a Witcher fan. Like, I'd love a yearly season, but I miss the days when fans wrote television. Those days were far superior to what we've got now, where it's so corporatized and so woke that there is no remnants of the universes that we knew and love left in the garbled mess that Hollywood gives us these days. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.